And welcome back to the Book and Life podcast. Today we're going to have a brand new book guest on. Whether they're an author, an editor, a producer, you'll never quite know, so you're in for one hell of a ride. But today I just have to do the adverts and then I'll get us straight into that most important conversation. And as we do every week, I'm going to read The Shadow, which is part of the Time Guardian series, and this is book 4 from Marianne Curley. The battle is over, the war is won. The prophecy complete, but life can't just pick up where it left off for Ethan, struggling to cope with tragic loss. At odds with friends in the guard, he finds himself adrift, jumping in shadows and sensing someone who can't possibly be there. Blaming herself for the goddess Athena's death, Giselle swears revenge to vilify the immortals' plan for world domination. But Giselle hadn't planned on love, and that leaves her with an unbearable choice. Should she follow her heart or the strings of a goddess short on praise but high on expectation, who continues to pull her from the grave? As the guard and the order battle through the past and into an impossible future, darkness lurks round every corner. The fight for the world's survival rests with just one. Is it friend or foe who stands in the shadow? And just a reminder that The Price of Freedom by Rosemary Rowan, is being donated to the Ukraine refugee crisis. And here's the blurb for her book. It's one of her Roman British crime series, which was written under her maiden name. All editions can be found online where all books are sold, even her agents donating her commission. Sorry, I don't have the blurb for that, but that's what she's doing. And now, without further ado, let's get you to the guests. And let's welcome back our hottest guest of all time. He had the most downloads. He's had the most fan attraction, I should say. Let's welcome back Eric Miller, who's also my lovely illiteracy agent, my really good friend. I can say that now. So yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
I loved how surprised you were when I turned around and said, "Oh, you got 5K downloads in one day." Your face just went, "What?"
What? Yeah.
Must be doing something right, you know?
Yeah, that's cool.
Because I laughed because you out-downloaded my co-author Joey Legend, who's a wrestler.
Right. It was
so it was like, and I mean, it's not like we haven't had bestsellers on this show, because we've had bestsellers in crime, we've had bestsellers in romance, we've had bestsellers in kids fiction, and you out-downloaded all of them.
That's great. Well, I do a lot of work on that.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, it's so cool. So good to be back. Thanks.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, I think people just enjoyed the fact that we talk kind of from a very writer / agent sort of perspective, where I kind of represent the writer side of things and you represent the author side of things. And I think there's so many people that want to get into publishing and get into writing that we give them that unique doorway in.
Right. No, that's true. And, I always think of myself as a author-centric kind of agent. I mean, yeah, definitely, and I was on a podcast pretty recently, and there was another agent who was clearly high level, but she said after all this, she was like, well, I'm not accepting any submissions. And I thought to myself, what is she doing on this show? Yeah. Why are you doing this show? And she was just like, oh, I'm just giving you my time. I mean, her attitude was, but there was a lady on there from one of the publishing companies. I think it was Wiley anyway, she was great. So I was able to send her some stuff and say, hey, it was great sharing the bill with you. And here's these books. And this is what I think. And I'm telling you, this is a high touch business. The whole thing is a high touch business that we're in. And you got to have the relationship, and that's what you and I have now. We've been
and exactly. Like I was sitting last night trying to explain to my wrestling friend that author events now are not about showing up looking like crap and signing a bunch of books. It's about the experience. You're giving your audience the experience. So if you're doing erotica, you've got to turn up, you've got to look sexy, you've got to look like a star, you've got to look like you belong. And that was what I was trying to explain to him last night. But in his mind, authors are just fat, bald men who sign up and sign books. And I'm like, the industry's completely changed. Absolutely changed. So I work out, which I don't know of many authors that do work out, but I work out. So I've got the dancer's body. I wear provocative clothing if I'm doing an erotic event. If I'm doing a romance event, I wear something cute and sweet, and I look the part. I act the star that I know I have to be. So like I feel like on this show I'm teaching the younger kind of authors who are coming up behind me, don't show up in your sweatpants and your sweaters. Put a bit of effort in and you get that fan base, you get that foundation, and they remember you because you've looked the part, you act the part, you give them a show, and it makes it worth it.
Right. No, I think you're right. And it's just like being a multi-genre author that you are, you have to, it's just, you have to make sure that you're all things to all people,
You have to pick away at it.
Do that.
Yeah, like you have to pick away at the conceptions, and you have to be able to, because this is a media grab world now that we're in. Like social media is taking over. So it's kind of like you're competing against social media. Because books, no offense, you could be the best writer on the planet, but nobody would know you if you do not know how to brand yourself, how to handle appearances, take pictures with fans, interact with them. Like all that is important now for author success. It doesn't matter how good you are. It is about relatability to your reader, and for them to have that emotional connection to you.
Yeah.
Because that's what you loved about me when you first met me.
Yeah, right. No, I know. You're definitely different. Yeah.
I left an impression,
Yeah, I know. You were yourself, and that's kind of the way I am. I mean, maybe that's why I got 5,000 downloads, because I'm just really transparent, and I'll just talk. I mean, I love the format. I really do.
I always make the joke of, there's Crystal, who is in your face, larger than life, the star, which I've had to develop. And then there's Crystal, the author, who's like, do I look fat today? Standing in the mirror, taking pictures like, have I got a gut now? Like, when did that happen? Or having my very much my, I laugh because I will send a text to Joe being like, do I look fat? Do I look like I'm losing my figure here? And he texts me back all the time going, Crystal, I've known you for over 10 years. You've never not been in shape.
Yeah.
Would you stop? But in my head, I'm like, oh shit, I've got to go on Saturday for an event, and I look like dog's dinner, like, because I've been working so much on my computer. I've not been stretching. I've not been working out. Like, right. I don't know if half the authors I know don't go to the salon and get their hair done the week before a signing. I do. Right. I put the false nails on. I put the clothes on. I make it that kind of, thing.
It's an appearance.
So yeah, I think a lot
even
of
if
my dance
there.
stuff,
even if
like
nobody's
all
there,
that dance performances, has come into my author work now.
I think too, like, even if there's like two people in the audience, you still have to show up that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've you can't just be bitter about it. Like if they're there, you go on, you do your show, and that's that's being professional.
Yeah, and I think that's because that's my attitude, that I do get invited to all these events and stuff, and I don't go to them all because if I did, I would never get any writing done ever again, because I would literally just be up and down on the road all the time. But one thing I have learned is that when I am there and I am out, turn the microphone up to 100, like, so that everybody feels like they are the most important thing, that they're in that room with me at that point in time. Like, when you met me, you walked away with the impression of this is a star. Because that's what I had to, that's what I needed to do that day. I had to convince you that I was worth the money. I was worth putting the time in.
Yeah.
And it's the same, like if I ever turn up, if I go to a professional meeting, I look like a professional. If I go to an author event, I look like, a sexy author that men can get behind. Because I got to not just attract female readers, I also have to reach in and try and drag the male counterparts who do read romance. Males do read romance. And be like, hey, dude, I've got you by the short and curlies. You got to read this,
Yeah, right.
Well, it's true, though.
Yeah.
We laugh about it, but it's true. And I remember talking to you because I had a book that I did not scene in. And it's where I strung a wrestler out on wrestling ropes. And I had this girl teasing him with a lollipop. Remember I told you that? And I was like, is that too much, Eric? And you're like, just a little bit, Crystal. Just a little bit. Remember that conversation?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, it's. I think the wrestling and romance thing is actually a really good kind of combination because it really kind of stands out.
I'm the only one in the world now that doesn't. The only other author that ever did it, she's passed away. So it's kind of like me and Joe's got the banner on our backs and we've got to do it together,
That's right.
And I get the look from other wrestlers saying, well, what's sex got to do with wrestling? Or they give me kind of this, it's never going to affect our industry, so why do we care? But now that I've been pushing this glass wall kind of for so long now that I'm seeing the cracks starting to occur. So, with the fact that I did sign with Marcus O'Neill and I am doing Waking Up His Wife, which is more focused on comedy and less on the romance and the sex, but it's still pushing it in that direction of wrestling can be a fantastic performance art, but the sex and the romance that is kind of hidden in the background can also be a huge push forward for the industry. It's changing with the times, it's changing with the culture, it's giving it a more realism approach to it rather than it being over the top dramatic. That's my personal opinion. I might be wrong. Who knows?
You got to go with it, I mean, and you've got the platform and you developed it and then you've been working really, really hard. And sometimes it just takes a while. I mean, I always tell people, my clients, that they got to take the stairs, and so you might get a rejection from a publisher, let's say, but they actually spend time reading it. They spend time writing you. And I always tell them, thank you so much for, reaching, back out to me. Thank you for your kind words, because usually I'll get some kind of, feedback. What types of books are you currently looking for? And 9 times out of 10, they write me back and they tell me what it is. So then I keep a database and I concentrate on the authors that want to learn, that want to grow, that want to do this stuff. Because the thing is that it's almost like you got to put up like a velvet rope and you got to let other people kind of go and you got to concentrate on the ones. And that's what I've learned since we last talked. I've been working on it with a select group of people because I want to see them succeed, because that's my passion. I want to help people, discover their voice, I feel like
that's what I liked about you, because when I met you, I had been in what was known as a literacy farm. I had been one client of like 5,000 with somebody, and she didn't have time for me, and she didn't do anything for me. And I had literally done everything myself. And then I met you, and I just left her for violations that she had made. And I thought, it's so nice to meet somebody that actually cares about me, but also lets me go do my own thing, and I don't have to be constantly texting you going, do I have permission to do this, or do I have permission to do that? You can just come to me and say, that deal's good for you, that deal's not good for you, here's my advice, let's go this way. And that's what I love about working with you, because you're very honest with me as well. So if I'm having kind of like that crisis that I usually have of where, no, remember, I wrote to you saying the Orchid Guild wasn't good enough, and you wrote me back and said, "This is a hell of a book."
Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
I had no faith in my work when I sent it to you, and you came back to me and you're like, "This is insane. This is probably your best work." And I was like, "Okay." So, you know, and that's where the process with you immediately started. And also, you didn't roll your eyes when I said I want to push wrestling in a different way. And I know it's going to be an uphill battle because I know what the romance industry is like and I know what the wrestling industry is like. And you went, I'm up for a challenge. I think this is really good. I think this is really
Yeah, right. No,
worthwhile.
I said, I
And I
love a
think when this
project. That's
movie,
what I said. I love a project.
you love a project. That
Yeah.
was like, yes, that was your exact phrase. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love a
that's what I said.
project. And
Sounds good. You know?
you
Yeah.
you've been
And
so
I like,
surprised by it though. Like you've definitely been surprised. You've definitely enjoyed it. Um, you know, you gave me faith again, put it that way.
you know, it's funny. I had this
Oh
lady
man.
who I could tell you this story. I had this lady that wrote this kind of a cheesy romance, but she actually wanted me to help her put together the pitch materials for it. So I put together the pitch materials for it, and then
Yeah.
so I remember reading it. I'm like, this book sucks. I hate this book. And I got up, and I finally, in the end, I saw something. There was a spark there. It was like right there. It was like, okay, I get it. I can see this.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend who's a screenwriter, and I sent him the pitch materials. He go, oh, definitely, I can do that. And I said, this is a Hallmark movie. This is what it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not even like a romance writer. She's more of a mystery author, right? You know, and she was supposed to send
Yeah.
me some other stuff, but it was like. So then I sent it to another friend of mine, another client of mine, who is a romance writer. She writes Western romance and
Yeah.
she writes mysteries. And then she goes, "Oh, this book sucks." And I was just like, "I get it, I
Yeah.
understand." I said, "I didn't tell you it was good, right? I didn't say it was
No,
good."
you're like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
then I had this really great book. I had this really awesome book. I got this lady's from Scotland. Actually, she's another client of mine. It's just an amazing book. And I sent it to her. I said, "Will you read this?" She's like, "No." And it's like, oh no, I burned the bridge. But I mean, I'm just saying that it's about developing these projects and doing this stuff. It's not about like, oh, this is the greatest book in the world. It's about what the audience wants and what the what
You
so
can't oversell it. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. You can't oversell it.
I always say
But I've
that.
been
Yeah,
really
don't oversell. Like there's a lot of like situations I've been in with publishers where they're like, "Oh, your book's the best book in the world." No, it's not. I know it's not. Don't oversell it. Like, and
right.
I think that's something I say to young writers all the time. Know what your worth is, yes, but don't oversell yourself because you're just going to look like an ass in the end, and then they're not going to want to deal with you. So you need to find the
Right.
balance, you know.
I had this guy who was an editor for a publisher, and he had these books, and he wrote this like 100,000 word historical novel about Al Capone. Okay, and it was
Yeah.
really good. It was very good, but I couldn't get people to read. I couldn't sell it. He couldn't believe after like 4 months that he didn't have anybody, so he got mad and he left. And it's just like that's not the type of author I want to work with.
No.
It takes time. You got to take the stairs. It's like you got to.
Yeah.
The other thing is my success. Your success
Mm-hmm.
is my success, and if I'm successful, then you're successful. You see what I mean?
But you also need to trust. Like there needs to be that trust between both sides.
The
Where
process. Yeah.
yeah, the process. Like I know if I'm having a really shitty time with a publisher, I can text you and be like, "Eric, I'm gonna kill this woman if you don't step in," and you're like, "Crystal, calm down. I know you're Scottish, but calm down. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll fix it." Like that was the first time, like when I ever had my first incident. I was working with you, and I just text you, and I was like blowing up. I was so mad. And you were like, breathe. It's okay. You will get it sorted. It's all right. And then that was when I knew that I had like a real agent that I could rely on because I was so used to agents just ignoring me when I had a freak out moment. And you were like, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
No, that's
you,
what
you
I
have a
love about
calming influence on me. Put it that way.
That's great. That's good.
Well, because
So ask
I
me
got
what.
known for
Ask
that.
me anything. Yeah, I'm in the ask me anything mode. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Ask me
but I
something.
mean, to me, it's funny because normally I had a reputation before I got with you of being a hothead and being a difficult author because if things weren't done on time or done the way they were supposed to be done, I would get mad and I would yell at the publisher and all this sort of stuff. And I met you and I was like, you literally said to me, if there's a problem, don't go to the publisher, come to me. And I think that's probably saved more of my professional relationships because if I get pissed, I do come to you and I say,
Yeah.
I'm going to kill somebody. And you're going to go, no, you're not. You're going to smile and it's going to be fine.
Yeah, that's right.
You were actually the first agent that got me to smile. I remember that. First time we met, you got me smiling. And I was like, okay, this guy's actually pretty good. He's got me smiling. Because I went in with this very hard attitude of, I'm going to take no shit and I'm going to, yeah, this is going to work out for me. And you were just like, you just knew how to like totally derail me from my little rant. And I smiled and I was like, okay, this is what a real agent's like. Okay, I can live with this.
Well, I'm just I work with a lot of authors. Got a bunch of different clients, but I want to work with the authors that will want to grow. Like I think since I met you, you've grown. You rebuilt the platform. You've done this. Yeah, that's right. And those are the kind of authors that I want to work with. And it takes a while, and especially with the international thing. I mean, you're over there in UK, and I'm here, and it's a big world.
We will do dinner. We will do dinner this year. I promise you. Okay, I will buy you dinner this year. And that's a sorry for all the times that I have phoned and texted and just been on a rant and you've had to sit there and listen to me.
Right.
But you've enjoyed it, I think.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out. Like I said, you got to kind of figure out what the deal is and just see what you can do to fix it. I mean, that's kind of the say, what's the problem here? Okay, let's keep
and you going. Usually know that if I have 5 minutes where you're quiet and I just let it all out, that I will calm myself down enough that you'll be like, let's fix now you've had that out your system, let's figure it out. I'm pretty sure sometimes you used to set the phone down and wait 5 minutes and then pick it back up again.
No.
But so obviously waking up his wife is you've gotten to see it progress. You kind of got to see it from what it was like in 2009 to now what it's going to be like moving forward as a novel. What do you take away from it? Do you take away that it's a really beautiful love story that just has wrestling as the background? How do you feel that I've balanced the romance and the wrestling?
I think the romance and the wrestling thing is is like super unique, and also kind of in the wrestling world, having it from like a woman's perspective is also unique. And
because there's not many female voices in the industry.
Really doing this, and then you've got Joey and Raven, and you've got these other people on your team, and I think that you know these people in the wrestling world, and wrestling's like a really big it's like a really big deal. So having and the other thing is too, like from a perspective of like the genre, you really have to kind of identify like what the genre is. I mean, in terms of this, it would be like a romance publisher. But it would be something that they would. It stands out. In other words, this is what I'm saying. Like this is something that I've learned as well. Like when you go to a publisher, you ask these 3 questions: why me? Why you? Why now? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So why me? Well, Why me? Because I'm the only one doing this. Why you? Because you concentrate on these kinds of books. And why now is this idea of like you're creating this culture, this event, this kind of thing. This is something. So you have to be able to answer.
We've got the feature, and we've got the feature coming out. We've got wrestling at its hottest that it's ever been at, because I mean they're nearly sold out Wembley Stadium. AEW almost sold out Wembley Stadium in London, which is unheard of because the FIFA, the football couldn't do it, and they have almost done it now.
Right.
And you've got the fact WWE is doing huge events in Canada and England and Saudi Arabia. So there's, for me, wrestling, what attracted me about wrestling was the idea that these people don't know how really sexy they are to women. And I always thought that was really interesting, because even the most evil of wrestling characters has a hidden sex appeal, has a hidden kind of draw to them. And not every woman likes the same guy. Like, you could have a girl that loves John Cena, but her best friend could be really into, let's use Raven as an example, but Raven, because Raven's more tortured, he's more like, oh, I could heal that guy, or I can fix that guy. Because there's girls that just want men, not just for sex, but for projects. Like, they want to feel like they fixed a guy, or they've made this guy better, or they've balmed his wounds, and they've got this important role in their life. And then other women look at, like, John Cena as, oh, I can be his damsel in distress, and he can be the superhero that comes and saves the day. But these are fantasies women have, and I kind of take all these kind of concepts that exist in wrestling, but I make it work in the romance industry, and I make it work in the romance tropes, because I understand that industry so well. And I understand the tropes so well because I spent so much time learning in the dance industry. Well, I have 8 minutes to sell a story. I need to make sure I not only sell my story, but everybody else's story, so it fits in with an overall picture. And I just think like all the years of experience, because I've done years in television. I did TV when I was a kid, and then I went in and I did radio, and then I was also a stage performer. So I tried to absorb as much as I could as I developed. But wrestling was always my thing that I shared with my friends. It was always the thing that got me through some of the darkest periods of my life. And, having a friend who walks in and dumps, 4 or 5 different DVDs in your lap because you're going to be binging them for the next 3-4 days, and it's nothing but wrestling, you get used to it. I might not know other pop culture as well as I know wrestling, or I know romance, or I know dance, but I still can take elements of what's going on in pop culture around me and implant it into the stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just from, I must spend hours a day watching dance videos, listening to the latest music and following what's hot and what's not and watching things. I think my husband is absolutely terrified when I say, hey, honey, I've got a new show for us to binge. And he just literally wants to curl up next to me and die because he's going to suffer through whatever it is I found. But I like pulling those little threads, and I like to see where they take me. And I think that's what wrestling is becoming. It's becoming another part of pop culture again. It's kind of having its revamp stage, I feel.
No, I know. I think so. The other thing is there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, obviously, there's got to be some other stuff. So, like, in other words, if you find a publisher and so this is part of like the YU is like, you could say, all right, I really like these books that you publish by this point. I'll hope you'll consider my book. You see, that way you personalize it, because this industry is all about
who
relationships, and it's about reaching out. So if you're approaching somebody that you don't know, but you're doing your research, like that happened to me. Like I was on, I think it was the Women's National Book Association. They were doing like a pitchorama thing. Somebody actually went on my website and looked up one of the books and said, my book's like this. I was like totally impressed. I was just like, the person did her work. She said, oh, there's this There
I
was a
think I
London
sent
Spies,
some people
Buffalo
to your event,
Spies.
actually. I did. I sent people to that event, authors
Yeah,
that I knew, and I'm like, go check this out, but make sure you pitch Eric. I think I
yeah,
sent
yeah,
that to a
right.
few
It
people.
was
Yeah.
all done in like different stuff, but
Yeah.
like I just was so impressed with the lady because she picked out London Spies and was like, this is exactly like this one, and it was just like that was a book that I had on my website. She took the time to go on my website, click on books, and look at the books that I was there and say, "Oh, there's you." Know. So you kind of have to do that, and that's something I've learned in like maybe the last 6 months. Just I've been doing it. I've been working it out, but I've been working with these authors, and we've been kind of developing this stuff. And I'm telling you, it's I really feel like I'm on the cusp of some really great success using these kind of tools that I've been developing over the last like 5 years or 6 years.
Well, I know I know hands down when I step out to do media for Waking Up His Wife, the first person that I'm thanking is you. Because when we met, I had walked away from the industry. I was totally disillusioned. I was totally done. And you kind of spent the time talking me back in and saying, you're really talented. You've really got something. Why are you just throwing in the towel and, giving up?
Yeah,
And
no, right. And I was honest with you. I say, this book
yeah,
works, this book doesn't work. I
yeah,
told you that. I mean,
yeah.
I was just like, yeah,
And
I
that
did.
that was what I was needing. Like I had spent so long bashing my head against the wall thinking, well, what's working? What's not working? What am I doing wrong? What can I do right? And you literally just came in and in 5 minutes you're like, Crystal, you're a romance writer. This needs to be your focus. Stop playing about with everything else. Focus on this.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I'm doing, and you're seeing the results of that with the film, with the fact that I'm pushing boundaries with different erotica versions and different romance versions. And I built this podcast. I built this within a year from nothing. Literally, I had 0 followers to 6,000 followers. And that's just because I know the people in the industry. I know the authors to talk to. I know the publishers to speak to because I have friends now in Pan Macmillan, which I never had before. And they send me books all the time. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Let's roll with this and see where it goes. And, the thing that I do, which a lot of other authors don't do, is then I sit with you and I say, hey, Eric, I've made this connection, this connection, this connection, this connection. Maybe that's something you can use. And then you find whether or not it's something you can use or whether you can use it or not. But I always gave back. And I think that was a huge difference. Like that was something you noticed right away about me was if I work with somebody, I work with somebody. I don't just sit on contacts and not share and not try and develop not only a working relationship, but I also have a friendship with people, and then I build on that even more so that everyone feels like what they're getting from me is 100% special and stands out.
No, that's true. I mean, and then the other thing is too, like working with these authors. I was working with this one author who was a children's book author, and she did this stuff, and I sat down with her, and we actually did this. I'd never done this before. We went on Zoom, and we looked at different editors and different stuff. I said, "What do you think of this? What do you think of that?" Because I really trusted her opinion because I realized I wasn't going to be able to do that. And then I've been working with these other people. Say, well, what do you think about this? What about this approach? What about that approach? And it's really starting. I've got this core of clients now. Out of like a whole bunch of clients, maybe 16, 17 clients that are just like.
I feel so honored I'm in that pile there. I'm like in that little core, tiny group there that's just.
Yeah, right. It's a tiny group, but it's I want to see those people get a big advance. I want to see those people,
Oh, that's the dream.
Publish their books,
Yeah.
And then it takes a while. Obviously, it takes a while in the publishing world. I mean, you get an advance or you get the book. It takes a while if they're going to do it right. Unlike some of these other people that we've been talking about that haven't been doing it right, but they're going to do it right. It takes a while, but you know what? It's just I just feel honored to be in this business that I can do that. I really found my calling.
And I feel like that with you as well, because I've got ideas of bringing my friends into the industry, friends that I've had in wrestling or friends from dance days or whatever. And I know I can come to you and say, I've got this really, really crazy idea. And you either tell me it's not going to work, don't even think about it, or let's go for it and see what happens.
Right.
And I
Funny.
actually, when we come off the air, I have a hell of an idea, which I need to run by you, because I think if we can get the right advance, I could do it with that person, and it would just, we'd blow the world up. We would 100%
Let's
blow
do
the
it.
world up.
I'm
Yeah.
open to it. Like I said, I love a project,
And this is definitely probably the most dangerous project I'd ever take on. And you know me, I don't take on little things. I know. Crystal just goes for the biggest thing there,
Romance and children's books are like the hardest,
industries
to work with. I mean, in the industry, they're the toughest because they're so like incredibly, like, you just can't make a mistake. That's why I sat down with this author. She had a picture book, and then we were like, oh, it's sing-song, it's in rhyme. No, change it. So now she's revising. And we got a ghost editor for her. We got a ghost editor that's working with her, and this lady is amazing. And I'm just like, I'm so happy to meet you because it's the ultimate collaborative process. You write the books. There's got to be a publisher, there's marketing, there's editorial, there's all these different kinds of things. So I kind of feel like being an agent, I sort of facilitate all that kind of stuff. I'm in the background.
You do, yeah.
Because if they're going to work, I'm going to work. If they're going to take 2 steps, I'm going to take 3 steps. They take 3 steps, I'll take 4 steps. That's what you have to do.
It was one of the conversations that we had that I absolutely adored was I love talking marketing because your book doesn't work if you don't know the market. I must have said this till I was blue in the face with people, but it's true. And you looked at me and it was like the light went on in your eyes as if to say, oh my God, somebody gets this. Because for the first time...
but it's true.
Yeah, but for the first time in my 10 years of writing at that point, I'd never met anybody that understood how I would market a book and how I'd market a series. And then it was just like you and me clicked. Like we could bring in X, Y, and Z, and we could do this and we could do that, and this is why we'll guarantee sales. And it was just that light bulb moment in your eyes that just gave me hope for the first time. And like, I don't know, I'd lost hope. I literally thought nobody looked at the markets anymore and said, because most of the agents I know, they look at the markets and say, well, what's the easiest thing I can sell? They don't look at the market and say, what's out there right now that I can use to sell my clients stuff, if you get my drift. And that was the difference, yeah.
That makes sense. I've been on a lot of panels with different agents, and they're kind of like, give me something I can sell. And it's just like, no, that's not
how it works. No, I mean, I had Holly Williams on, who's an amazing best-selling author, and she lives in LA. She's incredible. And she said to me, she's like, Crystal, I don't know how your stuff's not mainstream. Why are you not mainstream? And I'm like, I've never had that right connection to be mainstream. Because it's so difficult to get a publisher who doesn't know your niche to believe in your niche. And when I started talking to her about it, she's like, well, if you're ever free and you're ever a free agent, contact my editor because this is the things that they want. If you can show how you'd market it, how you'd work with marketing teams, how you would get this book picked up, how you would do all this, they're more business minded, this publisher, compared to what other publishers I've been with who are, who focus on the fact that I make mistakes. Well, I'm sorry, there's not a book published today that doesn't have 50, 60 mistakes in it. I read through a book and I'm like, oh, that's spelt wrong, and where's the grammar in this one, or whatever.
Right.
Or the dialogue isn't realistic enough, because guess what? In novels, you can't say but, well, because people don't want to read that. So you have to make it flow better. And jumping from novel writing to screenwriting, I've learned that transition. But I'm still having to teach people that the way we write in the author industry has got to be different to how you write in the script industry.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel
like marketing is what it's all about. I mean, even on my business card, it says marketing consultant. I mean, I never changed it, because that's what I'm doing. I'm marketing your book. The target audience for you would be the publishers or the producers or whoever, that's what I'm,
I mean, I was sitting with somebody I respect greatly. His name is Bill Burns, and he books the best wrestling talent in the world. That's his job. He consults and he books wrestling talent all over the world. I love the man to death. And I said to him, I'm like, this series would take off with the right wrestling company behind it. And he looked at me and he said, you're right, it would. But it's convincing the wrestling company that they're going to get their own kind of connection.
The ROI,
Yeah, they're going to get a guarantee royalty check out of what you're selling so that they can have books on their shop. When they go to the different events, your book's there, they can sell the book at shop events or whatever. And it just made sense sitting there and talking to somebody who was not in my industry, but understood that taking two of these big dogs, because romance is still $1 billion industry, and you're tying it together with the wrestling, which is $1 billion industry, you're going to make money, but you've got to find the right people that you can stitch together in order for that to happen.
That's right.
And that's what I love about you, because you understand that.
Yeah. No, it's what it's
and I'm lucky because I've got a wrestling company that is interested in supporting my work now. But it's going to be a case of bringing the right people together in order to make that happen, in order for them getting their guaranteed check, me getting the promotional aspect from them, and then seeing how that's going to play out with both fan bases. And knowing the right people to go to and do media stuff with is also something that I'm having to relearn as well. But yeah, there's a podcast I'm going to introduce you to when we come off the air, who's looking for sponsorships, and I think would be ideal for some of the clients you've got.
Yeah, it's possible. It makes sense.
Because I mean, it's not like sponsorship deals now with podcasters isn't huge. Like, it's not like, oh, you pay a huge lump sum for the year. You can buy out a year, or you can buy out 6 months, or you can buy out 3 months, or whatever it is. And that's what I'm saying to authors now is look at podcast adverts, because guess what? Everybody listens to podcasts. Whether you want to admit it or not, you've probably listened to at least 2 podcasts. If you can talk to the right people, you can get adverts now on Spotify or Podbean or Apple if you know the right people. And that's how you make your money, because then people are hearing about your book constantly. And they go buy it. I mean, I literally proved with Marianne Curley, was this young children's author from Australia. She's been mainstream for over 20 years. She started self-publishing her work. And people did not believe that she could have a market, her book placed on my show and it to help her. Well, guess what? I ran it for a year and she's seen an increase in her sales. Because people come here to listen about books and life. I give them book and life, but they also get to hear about books that are out there, books that have importance. Right. And I only have 3 adverts that I run. And I don't charge for them. And I don't charge for them because I wanted to prove that if you know how to put the ads together and you have them in the right place on the podcast, people, they get it in their heads because they hear it so often, they go and they check it out. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, you've got some great ideas, so, And I think, too, the other thing is that I'll share with you is, this idea of, like, having a series, okay? And I think what you have to do is improve it with the first book, okay? Like, for instance, if there's a series of books, and I've learned this, again, this is another one, because I used to sell series, and it just didn't work out as well.
They wouldn't go anywhere, yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't go anywhere. So you got to concentrate on one book at a time. And I had this series.
You had this argument with me for not focusing on one at a time.
I know, it's hard. But I did that to her, and I had this one book that was done, and I think we told you about it. It's a young adult fantasy book. It was published in England. Yeah. And I was talking to the lady. I said, well, she's got 6 books. They're great. I edited the first 2 of them, and they're actually both. It's all one book, but unfortunately, they're 90,000 words each. So there's a cliffhanger at the end. What do I do? What do I do? Well, here it won these awards. It got all these reviews. It got shortlisted and all this other stuff. She's like, resell that book, that one book, resell that book, the first book. And then all these people are clamoring. She's having, she's Canadian, so she's having these events in Indigo, and these kids, all these kids want the books and all this kind of stuff. And so I was a little stumped. I didn't know what to do. So I talked to this lady, and I said, what do you think? And she said, sell the book. So, I'm just really, I'm feeling like I'm sort of coming out and understanding how it works and what the approach to take is, and I did do it through experience,
But that's the thing about publishing is it changes all the time. The only way to know it is by being in it. You can't learn this. You can't learn this at school. Like I went and I told you I was doing my bachelor's in this, and I think you said to me, "Are you insane?" Because you know how hard my dyslexia is on me anyway. But I went in and I barely passed creative writing this past year. I'm pretty sure I've passed it. But I passed it, and now I only have 1 more year left, and I will walk out with a bachelor's degree. Nice. But I can tell you something here and now. I went into that creative class with over 10 years under my belt in publishing. They do not teach you anything to prepare you for publishing.
No, they don't.
They don't.
And, no, I mean it is pretty remarkable in that way. The college that I went to this place called Hampshire College, and it was a sort of an experimental school where you get evaluations instead of grades. And some of the things is like one of the classes is like how to read a novel. Another class was like how to write.
Oh, I'd have passed that. I would have passed.
Yeah, that was like those kinds of things were like nobody was teaching that.
Yeah.
Nobody's teaching about how to do this kind of stuff. So I got a textbook about how to do this, how to write, pitches and how to do this stuff. And it's just like, I'm learning this stuff. But the thing is, when I was reading it, I was coming up with these ideas for essays. I was like, oh my God, I got to concentrate on this stuff. I'm going to write my own essays. I'm going to do this stuff. It was like, no, wait a minute, because in a sense, I kind of feel like I'm in the background. I'm making this stuff happen. For me, I just want to see people succeed. I want to see authors like you and authors out there, anybody listening to me here right now, to succeed in how to make it happen, because that's what I need to concentrate on,
Yeah. And I think when my movie drops, you're going to explode, because I think the moment that people realize that what I do, which is so niche, can really work on a big screen, and not only work on a screen, but it works in a book too. And you know how hot I can go. If you tell me to turn the heat up on a book, and I send you back the scene with the heat turned all the way up, what is it you normally tell me? Too hot, turn it down. Because I go too far.
And I think too, with the sort of pandemic behind us, the theaters, it's really starting to, they're bringing this stuff back in the theaters,
Yeah, and it's not just the film, but for me, I feel like you and me, we looked at each other 3-4 years ago, and we said, let's do something that hasn't been done before. Because I always wanted to make history. And I wanted to give back to the wrestling industry that gave me so much, but wasn't fulfilling me. Because I wasn't able to get a work as a writer in the industry because I'm a girl. And for other reasons, but mostly because I'm a girl. And you said, let's do it. Let's do it. Take your books, take your dance story you want to tell, and let's put it out there. And we have. I mean, we did. We broke the mold by going and doing Marie's World, and by going and doing Summer of Him or Waking Up His Wife, because that stuff doesn't exist, or didn't exist, until you and me came around.
Right.
And now it's a case of we've got everyone scratching their heads going, this is a very new take on sports romance, because that's what, no matter what I say to publishers, they always put, right, we're putting it in sports romance. And like, I've just had this fight about Marie's World. Marie's World is a contemporary fiction. It is not a romance novel because it focuses on the drama and the aspects of the twins. It doesn't focus on their romantic lives. Yes, there's romance in it, but it's not the main focus. I think getting publishers to understand what they have is another huge hurdle to get over.
Mm-hmm.
And I did finish plotting out that series, the Marie's World series. Do you want to have a guess at how many books it added up to?
I don't know, like 12 or something.
34.
Wow. Which series was that again?
That was the Marie's World series.
Oh, yeah, okay. Wow.
Because remember, like, the way that we built that series, particularly me and Joe, was that every character adds a piece. So you end up with this, like, web of stories that kind of tells the world as it should be. Mm-hmm. And I was completely and utterly blown away by the idea that that's what we were creating. And you said to me, giving a character a book where they tell it from their own perspective, are you crazy? Because to you, it was like, we were completely changing how contemporary fiction was done when we decided to do that. And now Joe and me, we've written 6 of the books. All 6 are there. And, you know, the idea was to relaunch the series and relaunch it 1 a month till the end, which would be 32 months. And obviously that's not happening now, or at least it's not happening at the moment. But that was the idea of it. Like, that was our train of thought, was let's do this in one big, huge go. You know, and part of the idea that I wanted to do for Marie's World was I wanted to take in a guest writer who is a star and have him co-write one of the books with me. And the publisher that I hope to talk to you about would do it and would give us an advance, mm-hmm. so that we could go away and write it.
Yeah.
But I have to then teach that guy about my world and get him up to date on the series, because it wouldn't be Joe I'd be writing with.
Yeah, right, gotcha.
You know, and I think that's great. And I think the thing about Marie's World is I can bring in different writers to write with me, because I know the world inside out, and I don't mind sharing the glory. I've never been a glory hog. You can mm-hmm. attest to that. Mm-hmm. You know, because I said to you I'd be a ghostwriter for somebody, and I didn't want my name on it. I was like, no, this person's done the work. I just want to come in and smooth out storyline. Yeah. And you were like, and you don't want anything credit-wise? And I'm like, no, because it was about helping somebody else. And I think that's another thing we had in common. Yeah. You know, I like that about us, you know, because I love helping people. And that's why I went and I've done teaching this year. I went and taught in Fife College, and I was so proud of that, because I got to take a group of kids who knew nothing about the creative industry, but they are doing an HNC in creative industries. And I got to kind of rip the wool from their eyes and be like, this is actually what it's like. I mean, it's not easy. It's not simple. You're in for a hellacious ride. And they looked at me with these big eyes and they're like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. And at least I felt like I went into my old alma mater and I made them, you know, I gave back. And I didn't charge the college for that. I could have charged them 200 quid, but I didn't. Yeah. I wanted to teach the kids. And I taught a lecture hall full of kids who, by the way, every single one of them jumped up at the chance to take a picture with me. And I have a picture of us all grouped together. And I was like, that to me was a reminder that I still have it, that I still am worth something. Yeah. And I want to come out to your neck of the woods and do a class. So we might have to, yeah, I'd love to come out. I want to come out to your university and do it from an international perspective, kind of do like a whole thing about writing internationally. What does that mean? knowing your audience, knowing your market, and just really break it down for students, even if it's just one class, just breaking it down for students so they get to know what you're putting in, the hours you put in, the sacrifices you make. All that needs to be taught.
Yeah.
And that's why I've started opening myself up to universities in the States, because they don't have that across the pond point of view or perspective.
Right.
And I don't charge for that. I wouldn't charge the schools for that unless I physically have to be there in person, and then I might charge you an air ticket and hotel room fee, But I wouldn't charge them for my time, is my point. I would just charge them for expenses.
Yeah,
and I do that with everyone. If it's going to cost me money to get there, then yeah, I'll ask you for my fuel bill, or I'll ask you, whatever. Yeah. But I'm not going to charge you for my time, because I feel like I'm giving back to the industry. So I wonder if Reno would be open to a little Scottish flavoring.
Yeah, it might be. There's a university here, and one of the writers that I met, the romance writer I was telling you about, I met her. She was teaching about book marketing, and sort of like the adult extension thing. And
yeah,
we met her, and she was the one that convinced me to be an agent. She was just like, "You really need to do this," And I ended up selling her books, and
she was right about you, though. She was 100% right about you, and I think that's something that romance. This is going to break. This is breaking the fourth wall, I suppose, and I really shouldn't tell this, but who cares? But romance writers, we are sponges. We people watch. People don't realize is if a romance author's in a room, you're guaranteed she's snooping on you, because we need to see how people interact with each other in order to get that realism into our own work. So we watch people and we pick up things. And if we pick things up that says this guy is really good for this, or this person's really good for that, we have this tendency of trying to direct them in that way, especially if we think that their talents are being wasted. And I think she probably picked that up on you.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it really is my calling. So, I'm just happy to be
here with you. I look forward to us doing more of these, like talking maybe next time we'll bring you on and we'll talk more marketing, and then we'll talk about how to break the markets down, because I see a lot of authors fixating on Amazon ranking numbers, and I want to totally dispel people from that, because you and I both know the ranking numbers in Amazon means nothing. It doesn't equal sales.
Right.
It's how many times people are looking up your stuff.
Right.
But I like the idea of us doing more of these kind of sit-down chats where we can sort of dispel a lot of the myths, particularly when it comes to book sales, how to check how your book's doing. Is it worth being in an association? Is it worth being in the unions? Is it worth, because there's so many different elements now to writing. And I think the writer's strike has made people now look at unions in a different way.
That's right.
So what's your thoughts on the writer's strike? Let's be dangerous. What's your thoughts on the writer's strike?
I think I think they should just pay him. I mean, I really, I just think it's.
I wonder if you're saying that because I'm your client. And you're like, fair.
No, I believe that. I mean, it's just I think it's kind of unfortunate and silly, and it's just.
It shouldn't have to happen every 10 years. They shouldn't be begging every 10 years for a pay increase.
I think it's, I think it's like the distribution of wealth, and the writers get.
Yeah, streaming's fucked everything up. That's
I think it's. What has? I'm sorry?
Streaming, the way that the streaming royalties and stuff, and rather than it being the writers reaping rewards from their shows, it's now if a network's doing well, then, or the streamer's doing well, the writers aren't seeing their pay get any better because they're not connected into the streaming success. They're only connected to that show. So it all depends on how many times people watch that show over and over and over again.
Right. So I just feel like they need to pay him and kind of get over this. I know it's going to take a long time and it's complicated.
100 days, I think they were going for. They're striking 100 days, I think.
I just think it's too bad. Yeah. I support the writers 100%,
what I don't understand, right, and maybe this is my naivety, but the UK Writers Guild isn't striking, right? It's only the US. And I can tell you something now, the pay for writers in Britain is worse than what you're getting in the States.
Well, how come they don't strike?
I don't know. I don't know why we haven't striked yet, because I looked at it. You guys pay less tax than we do. Your interest rates is less than what we've got, because they've just put mortgage rates up by 3% here in the UK. No, 6%, sorry, 6%, right? So the average person who writes a television episode gets £11,000 per episode, right? Here in the UK, you're lucky if it goes up to 12 episodes a season. That's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then if you compare that to what you guys are getting in the States, see my point?
Yeah. No, I know. I don't understand why they don't strike, but...
No, I don't know either. But I'm watching it curiously because I'm like, well, if this goes through in the States and they get what they're wanting, does that mean the UK is going to do it? Does that mean that we're going to see Australia do it? Like, because the pay is so different for every country now. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. That's right.
And also, there's no clear guidelines on international writers working with studios and studios working with international writers. Like, there's none of that's being cleared up either.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, we're a month into the writer's strike now, slightly over that.
Yeah.
So 100 days is a long time to go.
I know.
But we'll see. I mean, that's the great thing about this.
Yeah.
So tell us what's going on with you. What major things have you been up to? It's been a year, so I know you've been up to stuff.
I've just been working with this core group of writers, and I've just been I've got a screenwriter that I've been working with, and then we've been putting these things together. I've been meeting people. I've been teaching a pitch workshop called Pitch Artistry that I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna send out the email.
Maybe have a special Scottish guest.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. No, that's true. I had another one who's a romance writer in Los Angeles. She came on, and everybody gets to pitch their books to me, and then I give them feedback, and then everybody else in the room does. So I work the room in that way. I've done one on synopsis, how to write a synopsis. Like people write their books and they have a really hard time trying to explain what happens in their book. So I've been doing that. I've been also doing like a
That was a conversation you and me had, because I was actually better writing the synopsis than I was at the book.
And then the actual book. Yeah, right. That's so funny.
And you were how is that possible?
I've been doing that. I was working with the Greater Los Angeles Writers Society, and
they're an amazing group of people.
It's a really good group, and I've gotten some really great, stuff with them. Unfortunately, the director, this Tony Tadaro, he's one of my clients, and he had a stroke, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to go on with him. Yeah. And there was going to be a summer workshop. I am going up to Seattle. I've never been to Seattle before, and there's a thing called Write on the Sound. That's
Yeah, I know. I've heard of that. I wanted to go to that, but I'm not getting paid enough.
I'm going to teach them there. They're actually paying me, so I'm going up there, and I'm doing the pitch workshop. I'm doing the synopsis workshop, there, and I send them my stuff. So I've been focusing on education, because as an agent, I kind of feel like you can't be like all things to all people, right? You can't just take everybody. So, like if you can work on a synopsis, or if you can work on a pitch, or work on a proposal, then you can approach an agent with it, because like I said, everybody has different expectations. Everybody has different stuff. Like I think I told you about this, this romance thing. I wrote the pitch for her. I did this stuff, and I decided I'll be the agent for it. It wasn't like something that it was precluded in the agreement. I just did it, right? And I just decided to just to try it, because, like I said, I sent it to my friend. I have this client who's a screenwriter. He's got like 5 or 6 different screenplays, and I got him to write a children's book, because I just decided that he needed to write a book, right? So I'm working with some illustrators. I'm working with some people, and what I am is like a connector, like a master connector. I try to connect people together.
Yeah, because I remember saying to you, you were the only person in the world that I would trust to find me a ghostwriter to tell my story.
Right.
And we still have to do that. We actually have to have a talk about that, because it was almost like everybody wants me to sit down and write down my story, but I know that I can't be objective about it, if you get my drift. So honestly, it's like the book that somebody would have to sit with me for a long period of time, and we would just have to start at the beginning of my story, and I would just have to dictate to them my story arc, and then let them do their thing and ghostwrite it in such a way that it makes sense. And I always I tease all my writer friends and say, oh, I'm never going to sell my story, I'm never going to do this. But I think my story is such an impactful one, because I went from being that kid that they didn't think would live to now being a screenwriter for a major Hollywood movie, who rubs shoulders with some of the weirdest people on the planet that I end up becoming friends with and I adore, getting an amazing agent like yourself. My story is such a positive one that no matter how bad stuff got for me, I always kept finding a way to keep going forward, and I kept finding a way to keep helping people, but also keeping myself moving one foot in front of the other. And I just think now is the time to really tell it and be like, yeah, you know what? I did a lot of crazy crap, and I did a lot of stuff I'm not proud of, but guess what? I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. It is about that. It's about like I used to come to work. I come into work. I got my office here, and I come to work, and I talk to this writer. I talk to that writer. I work on this kind of stuff, and I'd leave, and I kind of felt to myself, I didn't really do enough. And it's like, wait a minute, you did do enough. You know what I mean?
Just having somebody to listen to you is
your perspective. It's your perspective. And I'm going to be house sitting for a couple of friends of mine. They're taking off, and I also realized I could just sort of stay in this house and just kind of do my work, just and just really just be self confident about it. This is happening.
And when you heard my story, like you heard my background, I remember you just had this sort of glassy eyes, and you went, "That's a hell of a story."
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I just said that to me, that book couldn't end until I walk into the States and I'm going on set, and I've gone from being that tiny sick kid to being the person who's the star. That to me was always the journey. And you said no. You said your journey through your health crisis and through your, the loss of your friends and the fact you kept going. That's the most important part. Not all the other stuff that you did that you thought was, oh, this is funny or this is cool or whatever. It was just that constant good person that you managed to remain despite all the crap and all the death and all the torture you went through.
Yeah, right. No, it's true. And then I kind of feel that way too. I kind of feel I'm still here too, because I was talking to this
too,
a ton of mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes. But you know what? I made lemonade out of it. I just said, okay, I'm just going to make sure that
I mean,
you just have to.
Yeah, I couldn't trust anybody with that story except you. And I remember saying that to you. I have a director who wants to make it a film one day, the story of my life. And I'm like, well, I don't think it would fit in one film, but, let the book happen first. Let's see.
Yeah.
And I said, I actually promised him today. I'm like, I'm going to speak to Eric, I'll say it to him again. But yeah, that was my thing. Like, I'm now at that point where I'm willing to tell my story because I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 34 years old. I've pushed myself through all the the anxiety and all the crap that you have to get through as a kid and as a young adult. And I know myself now. I didn't know myself 10 years ago, but I know who I am now. I had to almost find out who Crystal was without the performance stuff. And to find out who I was when I dropped the personas and I dropped the acting and I dropped all of that, that was really hard for me to do. And my husband actually likes the person I am behind the scenes compared to the person he sees out there, performing. Right. He hates the person I am when I'm performing. It's hilarious. Because to him, it's not the sweet, innocent, well, I'm not innocent, but the sweet, caring, kind woman that I am behind the scenes compared to the brash and Scottish and slightly inappropriated language that comes out of me. So we've got a challenge. So next time you come on, we can discuss whether we've actually had any success in finding anybody dumb enough to write for me or ghostwrite my stuff.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, I always say to people that if I promote anybody on the show, it's because I believe in them. Mm-hmm. And I can safely say, if you are an author out there that actually wants to feel like you're important, you matter, and you want somebody that will listen to you and be honest with you, because honesty is so rare in this industry right now, Eric Miller's the guy for you.
Thank you.
I couldn't give you a bigger seal of approval. I honestly couldn't.
Well, we're going to work on some stuff, so we can definitely come back.
Well, you know me. I'm always working on something.
Yeah, that's right. So,
you're usually sending me emails going, one thing at a time, Crystal.
Yeah, one thing at a time. Yeah, right. That's it.
Because I'm that's what like
I learned.
50.
I learned that because I have a little bit of ADD, and it's like, go this or this. Let's do one book at a time. And I was talking to this one guy. He said he's like the biggest real literary agent in Hollywood. He's the biggest one. And I was talking to him. I got this. And he just sort of stopped. And he says, "Can we work on one book at a time? Please." Yeah, and I was just like, okay. You got it.
It's weird because when I met you, I never thought I was going to have to get an agent in Hollywood to deal with all of the rights for the film stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And now I'm kind of in that boat where I have to actually go find somebody. And I'm like, So that is another conversation we're going to have. I'll be like, Eric, save me, help me find somebody that's going to take on my films and my TV stuff so I don't pull my hair out before I'm Corey.
No, I know. I mean, it's like I concentrate on the author side.
It's weird. I never thought though that I'd be in a position where I needed somebody to manage my events and somebody to manage my films and somebody to manage my books. I never thought I'd be that kind of position, but now I'm getting into that position, or I'm about to be in that position, and I feel like my head's just kind of exploding, kind of stuff.
One thing at a time, though. One thing at a time. Definitely.
Yeah, but you know me. I never do one thing at a time.
No, but I'm just saying. We'll just work it.
Yeah. Because I'm working with somebody, and the amount of times he'll say to me, "Shh, I'm reading," because he can't do two things at once, and I'm so not used to people not being able to do two things at once, like me. I mean, I used to have conversations with fans and write my novels at the same time, and I can't do that now because I try and focus everything on the novel work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm learning. I'm getting better because as you have seen,
that's all you can do. Just
I'm less all over the place.
Don't try, just do it. Just That's it.
Excuses is something I'm working on.
That's
it. I am being taught by my new teacher that excuses don't fly.
That's right.
So yeah. Well, you survived the podcast again, and I know this is going to be a smash hit because I know you're going to stick your name out there and say, "Hey, go check out my stuff."
Yeah, send me a link.
Yeah, I always do. So yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure having you on. Hopefully we'll have you back in 3 months so we can start breaking down, doing a bit more education, I think, for the listeners out there and stuff. And also, I know if you say you're going to come on, you actually come on time, and I'm not sitting around for an hour waiting for you. So,
oh no, I did it. I woke up and I came in.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know, but
I've got another class this afternoon, and I got
yeah.
something to do. So it's actually it's good to kind of get out and get in here early and do
Yeah,
some
because
stuff.
like I felt
We
so
did.
bad because I had to ask you to come in an hour early, because I have to go work with somebody, and then they text me at like 2:45 in the morning to ask me to move the time.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
I
I
was
didn't do
like,
that.
no, but like he just doesn't understand time differences,
No, I know that's right. You know,
so it's kind of like yeah. But no, I look forward to working with you, and I'm so honored that I'm one of your clients. It's just you're gonna have to get me on your website though. You're gonna have to put my face
oh
on
yeah,
there.
yeah. I got to work on the website. That's the
I
website's
keep
kind of
remind. I just told you
it's
that
one of my
last
it's
year or
one of
something.
my website and email programs are sort of
Yeah,
one of
we
my
need to get you like an
yeah.
email, like a website designer or something that can just like update your website for you. I think.
Yeah, I know. I need that. I need that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. But
Well, it's been an honor having you on, guys. You want to come back next week as we have a best-selling author making an appearance for her first time. You're gonna want to
great.
check that out.